Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the Keto Fit Weight Loss Coaching for Women. My name is Jess, and I am a coach that helps women lose weight with a keto diet and a self-care mindset. This morning, we're going to be continuing our series that we started last week. It is all about reducing emotional eating through setting boundaries. And I'm so glad that you're here with me this morning. And I'm going to be talking today for the first time, but we're going to continue this throughout the next several weeks about reasons why we don't set boundaries. Some lies that we believe that are keeping us from setting healthy boundaries in our lives. And emotional eating is something that I have struggled with my entire life. If you are a human, I'm sure that you can relate because there is not a person on the planet that never emotionally eats. It is a normal thing. I want to normalize it. It is a very wide spectrum about how damaging or maladaptive this can be for you personally, with your goals, with your health, and so on and so forth. But literally, good morning, Kimmy. Thanks for being here. Literally every person emotionally eats from time to time. So this was something that I struggled with my entire life. And when I started eating keto back in 2013, it greatly helped me to change my emotional eating, because the magic of ketosis really does provide a lot more food freedom. It suppresses your appetite. It reduces your cravings. You're no longer riding the blood sugar roller coaster of getting hangry and needing more carbs and needing to eat every 2 hours and so on and so forth. For the first time in my life, when I started eating keto, I was able to eat a satisfying dinner and then not feel the need to snack after dinner. So, but one thing that keto did not do for me was completely eliminate my emotional eating. I would say that it reduced it a little bit, but not by a gigantic amount, because keto basically helped me to change what I was eating when I would use food to self-soothe. So that was a huge win, and I'm not diminishing that in any way, shape, or form. And this is something that I help my clients with as well. When we emotionally eat, we are self-soothing. There's a part of us that is trying to take care of us. We're in pain. We're trying to ease that pain, or we're trying to numb that pain in some way, shape, or form. And that's normal. That's okay. That's actually good. That's the part of you that cares about yourself and is trying to take care of yourself in that moment. But the problem is that we end up eating total garbage, or we end up eating just way too much. And now, an hour later, it felt good in the moment, but now we feel way worse than we even did to begin with, because now we're feeling physically crappy and we're feeling emotionally worse because we're feeling guilty, and now we're beating ourselves up for that. So it becomes a defeating cycle as opposed to something that actually was successful in helping you to feel better. So the thing that keto really helped me to do is, when I did feel the need to self-soothe with food, I started eating foods that actually blessed my body. It was something that I still enjoyed. It had nutritional value. It's not making me feel physically ill after doing it. And I wasn't eating as much, just because keto foods are so satisfying, and it's a lot harder to, overeat a keto food than it would be to just eat like an entire bag of Pringles, bin of Pringles. But I think you get what I'm saying. So keto did help me so much to change what I was eating. And then I wasn't feeling as bad after having an emotional eating episode and eating something that was good for me and blessing my body. But I still had an awareness of, okay, I wasn't hungry in that moment. I was self-soothing with food. And just kind of having that mental edge of not feeling physically ill afterwards, but still being aware of what happened, it did give me kind of the boost and the edge that I needed to say, okay, what's really going on here? Like, I need to do some work on this here, because I don't want to just continue to do this over and over and over again. I was really stuck in a pattern for a while. Maybe you guys can relate to this, and I think they call it the Sunday scaries. Like, when I was in my corporate 9-to-5 job, and I was working way too much, I was kind of out of alignment in a lot of ways, and every single Sunday I would find myself emotionally eating or self-soothing with keto foods. And it literally was happening every single Sunday. And I was like, okay, what is going on here? Obviously, something needs to change, because Even though it's okay to self-soothe with food, like I said, it's a spectrum of how maladaptive this is to your life and to your goals. This was really inhibiting me in my weight loss journey and my weight loss goals, specifically when I was postpartum and I was trying to lose that baby weight. Back in 2013, I lost 50 pounds on a ketogenic diet, and it was just incredible. Had a very healthy pregnancy. Nursing postpartum, stayed keto the entire time, but once I was done nursing, I wanted to get that additional weight back down to my pre-pregnancy weight. And this was a time in which I was really struggling to do that because I was emotionally eating on keto foods. So it can hamper you, and it's something to just take a look at. So again, keto really helped me to change what I was eating when I wasn't emotionally eating, but what keto won't do for you is change your crap, change your negative mindsets, meet your emotional needs, set up boundaries in your life for you. Those are things that keto will not do for you. Those are things that you can do for yourself. And what I want you to get out of today is that none of that is going to change. Your emotional eating is not going to change just by switching to a ketogenic diet. You also need to do the mindset work of saying, okay, what can I do to prevent all of this emotional eating from happening in the future? How can I help myself to not get back into this same exact emotional state again? What precipitated this? What do I need to do for myself to take care of myself? And this is why when I coach women, we don't just focus on keto strategies. There's all of that. There's the practical, but there's also the personal. There's the root, there's the problem, and the strategies to address the problem, but then there's the root of the problem as well, right? So imagine that we are like an onion. We have all these layers, right? And so our outermost layer is our results. And so the layer right beneath that is our behavior. And oftentimes we focus only on that, and a lot of coaches will focus only on that, strategies only. Let's change the behavior to get a different result. And while that's true, and that does work for a limited period of time, there are so many more layers beneath that. And unless we get down into the root, so underneath your behaviors are your thoughts. And underneath your thoughts are your feelings, and underneath your feelings are your beliefs. And a belief is a thought that you have thought so many times that now it has just become true. These are things that you absorb from your childhood, from the worldview that you've been taught, and it is in your unconscious, and you're just running on autopilot, thinking the same thoughts over and over and over again, unconsciously every day. These are your beliefs. And until we get to changing our beliefs, which we're going to talk about today, one of our beliefs around boundaries, until we get to changing our beliefs, it will always just be at this surface level behavior modification that is only temporary. Can you relate? So for long-term change that is actually effortless and ease and flow, rather than white knuckling it and only going a couple weeks and then failing again, we need to get to the root of the problem, which is our beliefs. So I find that with emotional eating, for me personally, and I usually find that with my clients, it usually boils down to one of these two things. We are emotionally eating because there's an emotion that is painful, negative. We're trying to soothe that. We're trying to numb that. And the reason why we feel that negative emotion is usually one of two reasons: either an unmet need or an unset boundary. And so I made a little pact with myself. Every time I emotionally eat, I'm going to have a little meeting with myself. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to bust out my journal, I'm going to try to reflect. I'm going to ask myself, what was the emotion that I was actually feeling, that I was trying to soothe? I'm going to ask myself, what did I actually need in that moment? What was the unmet need? Because obviously food was not the unmet need. I wasn't hungry. I was just using it as a substitute for the real thing. So what did I actually need? And then make a plan for the next time I feel this way. What am I going to do differently? So what am I going to eat instead of eating the garbage that I just ate? So that is one improvement on, it's an improvement on the reaction. But what could we improve upon proactively? The prevention is to say, was there an unset boundary there? How can I prevent myself? How can I protect myself from getting back into that same situation? So a boundary is a protective mechanism that you can set up in your life. It keeps you safe. And not only does it keep you safe, but it also increases the pleasure in your life. So in last week's episode, I gave this, really quick example of a boundary is wearing a seatbelt. So you get to drive a car. Hooray. You have a car. You don't have to walk And so this has greatly improved your life to be able to have a car, the pleasure in your life. You have more time. You can go places that you've never gone before. You can get there faster. And so this is a great, great thing to increase the pleasure in your life. And wearing a seatbelt is part of the terms of driving in a car. It is the law. It is the rules of engagement that have been set up. And it protects you, and it also increases the joy, the enjoyment of your life. So think about that in terms of setting boundaries. It's a lot of times we don't give enough credit to ourselves enjoying our lives or to keeping ourselves safe. So both are very important. You need both safety and pleasure in your life, and a boundary will help you to do that. So remember that a boundary is just the rules of engagement. It's changing the terms of a relationship or of a situation. And a lot of times these terms are just kind of implicit. They're things that we have been handed down. Maybe, your relationship with your mom, that's just how it's always been. Your relationship with your sister, that's just how it's always been. Things with your boss or your coworkers. You started working at this company and okay, this is the culture here. This is whatever. And we just kind of take it on as implicit and unchangeable. But it is not unchangeable. You can make changes in your own boundaries at any time. You can renegotiate the terms of a relationship or a situation at any time to the best of your control. We have a lot more agency and control than we give ourselves credit for. And so that's what a boundary is it's changing the terms. It's renegotiating on the terms of this situation. And the reason is to create more safety and more pleasure for yourself. And, it's not selfish. It actually is making things better for both people in the relationship, because if you are not setting a boundary, you're being inauthentic and you're becoming resentful. And so is that love? No, that's fear. And so love and fear can't exist at the same time. So if you want genuine love in the relationships in your life, and you want genuine enjoyment in the relationships in your life, then being authentic is required. You have to speak your truth. You have to say what's working for you and what's not working for you. You make requests and you renegotiate when you need to, because you deserve better than that. And so does the other person. They deserve your authenticity. So, okay. Let's talk about reasons why we don't set boundaries. So today we're just going to talk about one of those reasons, but over the coming weeks, we're going to talk about several more. Maybe you'll relate with this one, maybe you won't, because we all have different reasons why we don't set boundaries. But one of the reasons that I want to talk about today is being in denial about the fact that no one is coming to save us. And that is not meant to sound dismal. I actually mean that to sound empowering, because you are the one that can solve this problem. But a lot of times we're just sitting there being passive, wishing, hoping, praying that the situation will change or that this other person will change. So the solution to that denial is, first of all, just to be aware of it. Like, oh, okay, I'm really hoping that somebody else is just going to come in here and change things. I'm really hoping that somebody is just going to come in here. This is kind of like a fantasy. This is okay, I just want to be like the damsel in distress that gets rescued. Okay, I can see where this came from. Yep, a lot of the conditioning from my childhood, maybe too many Disney movies, or just kind of the roles that you've been taught about yourself as being a woman, whatever that may be. And so just to kind of gain some awareness of that and to say, okay, nobody's actually going to come in here and be the fairy godmother and wave a magic wand and change this situation for me. And I find that a lot of times we even do this with our spiritual beliefs. So if you believe in God or whatever it is that you might believe in, if you're a praying person, we'll find ourselves praying a lot of times, God, please just change this person's heart. God, please just change this situation. And so, or we're just hoping or wishing okay, in a couple of weeks, things will calm down. But babe, things are not going to calm down unless you change you being a person that is always accepting things being so busy for you or being chaotic for you. So the problem is, yes, our outside situations, but also, is there anything in me that needs to change? To be honest, what can I do? How can I be empowered to change this? So another belief that I think is really hand in hand with this about the fact that nobody's coming to save us, and just kind of wishing and hoping and praying and so on and so forth, is that we also kind of have this belief that is limiting and not true, that we somehow need to suffer in our lives. It's just a natural part of life, or it's a natural part of being in a loving relationship, that maybe God is using this difficult situation or this suffering to shape us and teach us. And while I do believe that God can do that, and of course will do that because that's loving, I think a lot of times we tolerate a lot more suffering than is really necessary, and maybe project that onto God, that it's God's will for me to continue suffering in this challenging relationship, in this person treating me in a way that is not what I deserve, in just taking on way too much for any one person and never having any time to myself and being burnt out all the time, whatever that might be. And, I'm just serving, I'm doing what God's called me to do. So there can be a lot of toxic beliefs wrapped up in this idea that we need to suffer because suffering is what God uses to shape us into who He wants us to be. Have you ever experienced that? I know that I had that belief in my life, and a lot of the clients that I work with, especially if they are religious or spiritual people, there's that belief that's deep down there. So I'm just asking you today, to call that forth. Is that true? And how is that serving you? So God is with you in your suffering, for sure. But if you're a parent, would you just sit with your kid in their suffering and say, oh, yeah, this sucks, but it's making you a stronger person? Or would you try to help them find a solution? Would you try to ask them, is there anything that you can do differently? You as a parent, you probably are biting your tongue, trying to say okay, I can't give them the answer. They need to find the answer out on their own, right? I view God in this way now, that God is okay, I'm with you in your suffering, but also, take my hand. Here's the way out. So I was working with a client a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about emotional eating, and I just felt like this visual drop in for me, and I shared it with her. She's a very visual person, and so a lot of times a metaphor or a visual can be a lot more profound in helping us to understand something. So again, we were talking about emotional eating, and emotional eating is you soothing yourself with food. It's the part of you that wants to take care of yourself, and you're trying to take care of yourself in the way that you best know how, or in the way that is just the most familiar to you. Think about it. It's totally normal. Food is pleasurable. From the time you were a child, you had access to food, and so you made this association in your brain, okay, I feel better, when I have a cookie. I was sad. Maybe my mom offered me oh, don't be sad. Here's a lollipop, and so all these things tend to form this very strong association for us, is okay, let's celebrate with food. When we're sad, let's eat food. And so you've learned this, you've made this association, and it has been somewhat true, and it has served you in some capacity in your life. So let's normalize that. Let's stop beating ourselves up about that. But it doesn't mean that we just need to sit with that forever. However, when we are in a really painful emotional place, the answer is not to not soothe ourselves. That would be crazy. And so to think that you're just gonna be when I feel crappy, I'm just never gonna emotionally eat anymore. I'm just gonna deal with it. That's not gonna work. There has to be something that you do to soothe yourself. And so it's okay that you have used food to soothe yourself before, but the answer is not to not soothe yourself. The answer is to look on the front end and say, okay, what is happening that's continuing to get me into this same exact mental state over and over again? So here's the visual that I had when I was working together with this client. It's okay, imagine that every time you come home from work for the day, you're walking through the threshold of your house, and there is a giant rusty nail just poking up. And every day you forget about it, and you step right on that nail, and man, it hurts. And you're oh, crap. I can't believe I stepped on this nail again, but okay, let me go to, the medicine cabinet, and let me disinfect this thing, and let me put on a Band-Aid. And you continue to do this day after day after day. And every single day you're going through disinfectant, you're going through Band-Aids, and you're sitting there working on your budget and you're like, my God, I can't afford to go take this trip with my friend, or I can't afford to go buy this new shirt that I want to get, or I can't afford to, pay my electric bill because I'm spending so much dang money on disinfectant and Band-Aids. What am I going to do? So the solution is, imagine that you thought to yourself, okay, well, I'm just going to stop disinfecting and putting a Band-Aid on it. No, that would be crazy. That would be you no longer caring for yourself. It is a very caring, wonderful thing for you to do, that when you get hurt from that dang nail, that you disinfect it and that you put a Band-Aid on it. That's what you're doing with the self-soothing of emotional eating. It's you putting a Band-Aid on the situation. It is caring for yourself. You do need some type of soothing in that situation. But is the real answer to just continue to disinfect and put a Band-Aid on that thing every day? Or is the real solution to take a hammer and either pull that nail out of the floor or bang it back down, right? That is the real solution. And so that is what I'm talking about with the reaction to a negative emotional state is self-soothing with food. What could be the prevention for getting yourself into that negative emotional state over and over again? It's either an unmet need or an unset boundary. And so the first reason that we're talking about today about why we don't set those boundaries is because we're in denial about the fact that nobody's coming to save us. We're sitting there saying, oh man, I just wish that somebody would come over here and pull this nail out of the floor for me. Or, God, would you just magically, move that nail out of the floor for me? And God is with you in your suffering. And he's saying, okay, yeah, definitely. Let's please, let's soothe this, wound in your foot right here. But also, here's a hammer. Go ahead and pull that out, rip that out. And so God is with you in your suffering, but he's also taking you by the hand, showing you the way out through figuring out a way to meet that need, or figuring out a way to set that boundary so that you're not continuing to get yourself back in that same exact situation every single day. And remember, a boundary is something that you have complete control over. It's not something, so a boundary is you changing the terms of a situation or of a relationship. So imagine that your boss is constantly piling way too much work on you and you're not saying anything about it. A boundary would be to have a conversation with your boss and say, hey boss, I've got 2 deadlines coming up for this Friday. If I'm not able to make both, which one would you like me to prioritize over the other? And your boss would just be like, oh, okay, that's a great question. Definitely, I didn't realize that you had too much on your plate. Please prioritize this one. And then you're like, okay, great. Can we figure out a new deadline for the other one? So that would be you setting a boundary or having a conversation. And a lot of times we think it's going to be way worse than what it really is. Now, it might be that your boss actually says, what the hell's wrong with you? Why can't you meet both of these deadlines? What's going on? But chances are that's probably not how it's going to go unless your boss is, like the mean lady from The Devil Wears Prada. I don't know. But usually that's not the case. And so at least you had the self-efficacy to take care of yourself and to stand up for yourself in that situation, to make a request about the space in between you two. Remember, there's the other person, there's you, there's the space in between you two, which is the pillow. This is where we negotiate terms. This is where we make requests. So you've made a request of the other person. And if they do say no, well, then okay, maybe I need to create some distance in this relationship. Maybe the relationship does need to end. If it's a boss employee situation, maybe you do need to look for another job. If you've continued to try to set boundaries for yourself that are reasonable, that are self-caring, and they're not being respected, then that could be a potential solution over time. So the point is that you're the one in the driver's seat of your life. You're not in the passenger seat of your life. Hop out of there. Last week we were talking about, one of my favorite movies, The Holiday, and where Kate Winslet is the protagonist in this story. She's the main character. And, she meets this lovely old man who used to be in the film industry, Arthur, and she's having dinner with him one night and kind of telling about her situation where she's in love with this guy. It's unrequited and he doesn't give a crap about her. In fact, he's going to go marry somebody else, but he's trying to keep her as a side piece. And she just can't say no to him. And so Arthur says to her, you're the leading lady of your life, but you're acting like the best friend. Babe, are you the leading lady of your life? Or are you just the best friend that exists for somebody else's benefit? You're just the showpiece. You're just, the arm candy. You're just the passenger. Like, which is it? The number one regret of the dying is that they get to the end of their lives and they say, I wish I lived a life true to myself rather than the one that somebody else expected of me. We're living our whole lives not setting boundaries, not caring about our own needs, having this fantasy, being in denial about that maybe somebody else is going to come in to save us, just hoping, wishing that something's going to change. You're the one that can make the change. You're the leading lady of your life. You're the driver in this situation. You're the hero of your own story. So let's flip that. And the first thing, what's the solution to denial? Acceptance. Radical acceptance. Radical acceptance does not mean that you're not going to change anything. It's just that you will never change anything until you radically accept that this is reality. Okay, this is how this person is. This is how my mom is. I'm not going to change her. And I can't change her. It's actually not loving to change her. I can change the terms. So radical acceptance is the opposite of denial. Instead of saying, oh, I just wish my mom would change. I wish my mom would, be less needy. I wish my mom would be nicer to me. I wish my boss would change. I wish he would be less demanding. I wish things would just calm down at work. Okay, radical acceptance is this is how things are. Okay, now what am I going to do about it? What requests am I going to make? What boundaries can I set up? What ways can I help take care of myself in this situation? Do I want to get out of this situation? Okay, but you're never going to do that as long as you're stuck in that fantasy and in that denial that maybe somebody else is going to come save you. Hoping, wishing, praying. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with me this morning. We're going to continue to be talking about reducing emotional eating through setting boundaries. And next week, we're going to be talking about a different reason, maybe why we don't set boundaries. So I just want to remind you guys that I am a coach and I help women lose weight with a keto diet and a self-care mindset. So today we've been focusing a lot on that mindset piece, getting to the root of the problem. And so I love working with my clients by incorporating both of these things. You do need those concrete strategies that are going to help you reach your goals, right? But I find that most people don't not know what to do. All the information is for free online, right? So it's not that you don't know what to do. It's that you continue to not do it because those in that very core inside layer, those beliefs are not changing. And so we're going to continue to self-sabotage as long as we keep bumping up against these beliefs that are holding us back. So I am currently taking new clients for one-on-one coaching. And if you're interested, I would love to talk with you more about that. And I offer a free curiosity call. We would spend about 20 to 30 minutes over the phone just getting to know each other. I can tell you a little bit more about the program, make sure that we're jiving with each other. And even if it's something that you don't want to move forward with, I still always love to give free tips and advice about keto to everybody that I talk to. Can give you some customized advice if you're facing any challenges, because I just love helping people out for free. So it's something that I'm passionate about. Advice is always free, and I just love meeting and talking to new people. I know that when I first started my journey, it's very overwhelming when you're first starting in this space. There are so many different, theories and things that can be confusing about macros and total carbs versus net carbs, and should I eat keto products, should I not? What am I supposed to do? Dirty keto, clean keto, what the heck, So there's so many things out there, and I would just love to talk with you and help you to find a little bit more clarity on your journey. And then we can also explore if coaching is something that feels right to you and you'd like to move forward with. And I would just be honored to walk alongside the journey with you. So if you are interested in setting up that free call, all you have to do is send me a direct message on either Facebook or Instagram. I'm at the Keto Fit. If you're listening to this on podcast later and you don't have social, you can also email me. I'm theketofit@gmail.com. And I really look forward to just getting a chance to connect with you and get to know you better. So once again, thanks so much for tuning in with me. I am live every single Wednesday at 9 a.m. on IGTV, and then I make that available on the Self-Care Keto podcast later. You can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. And guys, before I go, I want to tell you about something new and exciting. Tomorrow morning, I'm actually going to be hosting my very first Clubhouse room. And so if you are not on Clubhouse yet and you are an Apple user and you'd like to participate, I can send you an invite to get on Clubhouse. Right now it's by invite only and only for Apple users. But this is a way that I'm so excited because I'm going to be offering free group coaching. Yes. So if you are interested in coaching, but it's something that you can't afford right now, or you're just a little bit curious, I'm not sure if I'm going to like it, what's it all about, this is an amazing opportunity for you to join me for some free group coaching over on the Clubhouse app. And it's going to be tomorrow morning, Thursday, at 9 a.m. and I would love for you to join me. So if you already are on Clubhouse and you would just like to follow me over there, I am at The Keto Fit, same as my Instagram and Facebook handle. So give me a follow and please join me tomorrow morning. If you can't make it, I am going to be recording it and we'll post the audio over to my podcast, and I will post the video to Instagram and Facebook as well if you can't make it. And I will be experimenting with different times and days in the future as well. But yeah, it is not going to be a lecture format. I appreciate you joining me this morning or, listening to it on the podcast. And this is kind of, a teaching lecture format, and that has a lot of value. And I'm so honored that you're tuning in with me. You want to listen to what I have to say, but this is going to be different than that. It's not going to be a lecture format. It's going to be very conversational. It'll be a chance to get to know other people, and we're going to have some Q&A. We're also going to be talking about some mindset stuff, and it'll be a chance to make friends, meet other people on the journey. And no matter where you are, if you are just keto curious, you haven't even started keto yet, or if you are like me and you're like keto for life, it's for everybody to come benefit from that group coaching environment with one another. So I hope that you'll join me and spread the word as well. All right, guys, thanks again, and I will see you again next Wednesday at 9 a.m. on IGTV. Have a great week.